Will everyone have a seat so we can start with our first event of this evening? Thank you. Please have a seat. Okay. And I guess we can start. All right. Welcome, everyone. I hope you enjoy this boat, you enjoy the view, you enjoy your drinks and the meal. We're going to have a few events today to discuss some important topics that are important for us liberals. But before we start, I would like to thank some people for making this possible. Someone that has not only been central to this particular part of our agenda, but throughout the Congress. Marketa, can you please come up here? I think you deserve a round of applause for all the efforts you have put. There has been bumps, there has been possibilities, but you have done it all. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. I would also like to start to thank two MEPs from the Czech Republic that has made this possible. One of them sits here, Andrej, and excuse me, my surname pronounced. Andrej Kravčík, and Martin Klavčík. Thank you so much for making this possible. It means a lot to us, and we thank you once again for granting us this opportunity. I think I talk for everyone when I say this is highly appreciated. Thank you. Now, to the events we're about to discuss. As you know, at this Congress, we, Liberal Youth, has been discussing a lot of political issues, having some solutions, and of course, bringing new policies to our friends and our partners in the Liberal family. But one thing that is debated in Europe, not only among us, is of course the Year of the Youth. Now, for you that don't know what it is, it's basically a priority that the European Union, the European Commission has, where it sets that this year it will dedicate to the youth, meaning dedicate in having more possibilities for the youth to get jobs, work on youth health issues, because they are, especially after the pandemic, but also, and this is one of the important parts, make the youth more active in policies and policy making. And I don't know about you, but the last part is very interesting for us that works with policies, because we hear several times, we hear politicians speaking about the youth is important, the youth is the future, and so on. But leading a youth organization, I can't help but feeling there is a gap between the established politics and the established, European Union Commission and even in the national, and the youth organization. And I can't help but feel that sometimes when politicians says including the youth, because they're our future, it means having some events now and then that already are made, already are planned, but the youth has not been there to shape it. And with me today, I have also MEP Svenja Hahn, and I would like to start asking you, what does Year of the Youth mean for you? And on this gap that I think, I saw you nodding head, so I think you agree with me that there is, what can be done to make young people, especially here among us that are working with politics, to make us more active in the decision making? Should we start with Andrej, please?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us here, and once again, welcome to Prague. I already had the opportunity to speak to you at the beginning of Congress. I have to say that I don't see much harm and injuries after the Congress, so it must have been quite smooth. But I'm really happy that we have this opportunity to change a little bit of the setting and continue our discussions while discovering and exploring the beauties of Prague. So very difficult question actually to start with, to be honest. I think, first of all, on the European Year of Youth, to me, it's a very important priority. And I mentioned that yesterday, especially after the 2 years of COVID, when we realized that a lot of measures and a lot of decisions that were taken had a negative impact on young generation, on kids in the school, on students in universities, on young people who were not able to socialize, to really enjoy everything that we usually, have sort of connected with young age, and we sort of ask them to switch only to online world, and I think it is something that is a natural environment for a lot of young people, but it should not be the only environment. And I think also this Congress sort of shows us that it's very important that you can socialize, you can sit together, you can talk to your colleagues, to your partners, you can argue, you can exchange, you can actually enrich each other. And I think this is something that we haven't seen much in these past 2 years. And in my view, the European Year of Youth, the 2022, is a sort of a remedy after that. But I think, and let me comment quickly on the second point of the gap. I think the European Year of Youth, it's a huge opportunity. And if I can give you some advice or recommendation, I think you should really take it, seriously, and you should actually make all other politicians accountable. Saying, look, you made this commitment with the European Year of Youth, so we wanted to see that you really mean it seriously. These are our inputs, and obviously we would expect, also you to come back with decisions, proposals, initiatives, but also to make sure that the politicians are taking seriously those commitments and that they are accountable. That it won't be just a very nice speech at the end of 2022, how important it was that the youth was in the forefront, but to see some real concrete actions that is there. And I see this is maybe one of the possibilities how to fill this gap, to actually make sure that you can be heard, you can have the room and the time and the attention deserved, and that you are ready for that, and you really want to take that challenge. And I think this is what, in my view, this entire year should be about.
Thank you so much. Sven Johan, you have also actually been a LIMIC president as well. When I mentioned this gap and that it is, of course, a challenge, what do you have to say on that? And what do you think we need to do?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the European Year of the Youth, I've been very critical about it. I thought, wow, my God, it's just another PR stunt from Ursula von der Leyen. And youth is so much more worth than just claiming it for PR. So I was very critical because the Commission didn't put much budget. They didn't took much planning. What did they do? Young people are so much more and they deserve so much more. And we've seen it, you just said it, in the last 2 years. Young people missed a lot of especially good times. I mean, I'm 32 now, which is for politics still very young. If you're afraid of growing old, go into politics, you're young till at least mid-40. But young people, when you're going to school, when you're finishing your school, you have a lot of first times. And a lot of people have missed a lot of first times. Or single times. They have missed their school prom. They have missed the 2 years of university. I mean, I personally also do not have too much memories of my first years in universities, but that was because I had a lot of fun in my first years of university. And a lot of young people have been deprived of all those moments. So as a society, we have expecting young people to give up a lot. And right now, we're talking about how do we shape the future? And it's young people that have to live the longest in it. We're talking about very decisive politics of the future of our society and the future of even of our whole continent. And to that regard, I'm not so pleased and to what extent we see young people involved. And that's why I'm so happy that we're doing this tonight with Renew Europe. And that's why I'm so proud that Renew Europe is actually bringing some meat to the bones when we talk about the Year of the Youth. They support their MEPs doing events like this. So thank you very much to my Czech colleagues for making this possible tonight. They really do that. What I see lacking from the Commission, getting into the dialogue with young people and involving them. And I know that Limek is great advocate in that. You said it. I've been president myself. I'm so proud to have seen the work of Antonetta, to see you being elected. We were in a team together. So we really need organizations like Limek that work for it, that have policy campaign, that make their voices heard. I mean, you guys are all in a party. And that's great, because that is where change is made. I mean, it's great to go on the streets and to campaign for what you believe in. That is great. But decisions are taken in parties and in parliaments. And that is where we need young people. So get up, go and active. Some people show they're taking over responsibility in Limek. You're taking over responsibility in your organizations. But also be brave. Have a position, fight for it. Push your parties further, and also stand up for election and run, because only when we have young people in parliament we make sure that the voices are better heard.
Thank you so much. All right, so there have been very interesting aspects, and it's clear that I think where you both had this, let's say, the same angle on is that the European Commission, or Ursula von der Leyen, if we to name a person, has made it to more like a PR stunt rather than something concrete. So one of the things to make it better, and why this Year of the Youth can matter more, is of course to have more meat to the bones, as you say, from the politics side. But what are your advices for us young people? Because I feel that we also have to change perhaps something in the way we communicate. You know, we are very active on social media. We try to send mail campaigns and stuff. But do you have any advice from your... Because I'm pretty certain that you have been contacted by youth organizations, by young people, and perhaps you have some insights on what can we do better, so we both together, of course, find a good cooperation and to make Year of the Youth more impactful. What would be your advice to us?
I think definitely the first point to start with is not to be afraid to be active, and especially I think young generations these days are very much able to actually stand up for what they believe in and to speak up, and I think that is very important. But to follow up, and I totally agree with what Svenja mentioned in the end. It's actually good to have, informal gatherings and discussions, but the final decisions are taken by politicians in political and democratic institutions, and also through the political parties. So I think the key is actually to make sure that your views are also reflected in those institutions, and I think we have the luck. To be part of the European Parliament that is one of the youngest actually in its history. 60% of MEPs elected in 2019 were elected first time. Many of them are very, very young. We have MEPs in their 20s and 30s, and I think this is something that is very important. So it shows that there is actually this shift to get more young people into politics. But I think that would be, in my view, be the first step. Be active, and don't be afraid actually to address all those issues that you find important, because very often, we have this sort of first reaction when we speak to young people. They should tell us what they think about schools and schooling and universities. But I think it goes much farther than that. The discussions with young people should be about very broad scope of issues, because I mentioned that also yesterday, and as Svenja said, we are now taking decisions that will be actually decisions for your lives. And I think this is a very important thing to emphasize, and also to sort of confront the politicians with that. That would be one thing. And then the other thing and that's more about a broader involvement. I truly believe on this personal influence that every one of us can have on our environment, on our colleagues, on our classmates or roommates, just to make sort of show by example that it works. That they are young people that can be actually interested in politics, that can make difference, then they can be taken seriously, and that it makes sense, because through that they are actually able to achieve what they believe in. And I think this is something what we can also do in our daily lives. Not only through the congresses and through the party meetings, but when just talking to our friends. If there is something that they don't like or they would like to see, to sort of invite them or help them to understand that this is something that they can actually pursue as a political program, but they have to be part of a group, a party, a community, or an institution. And I think this is important as well, because there would be a lot of people who would have brilliant thoughts and brilliant ideas, but they just don't maybe have enough courage to integrate such a party. And I think LIMEC could be this good example to lead by.
Okay, well, thank you so much for advice. So be more courage, act more, but also aim for the low-hanging fruits. That's what I'm hearing, and that's very good advice. Sven-Johan, any reflections on that?
To be perfectly honest, in all my time in politics, and it's already quite some for my age now, I have never experienced that anyone is waiting for you or your opinion. Nope. You need to go out, you need to speak what's on your mind, and you need to work for what you believe in. Actually, in my time in LIMEC, we started the Young Changemakers Academy. I think it's still running. It is about training people to make them into advocates, to lobby for their interests, for their thoughts, for what they believe in. How can I fight for my cause? How can I get the message across? And I think this is really a skill that is important to young people, to get engaged, to talk to people, to reach out to the decision makers in power today, to talk with each other. Happy birthday, congratulations, Susanka. And so I think it's tremendously important that you have something that you fight for and that you know how to lobby for it. I can tell you, I get like, I don't know, 300 emails a day into my MEP mailbox. You as well, I guess, Andre. It's like crazy. You really need to make sure, and most of them, are mass mailings. Most of them are not even remotely related to what I work with. So often they go unanswered. Or if it's a personal message, they get answered. But really make sure to figure out what you're fighting for, how you can advocate for it, and to who to reach out. Because if there are young people that have a topic that they care about, that I'm working on, where I can actually make a difference, I'm always making sure to hear them. And I know that many decision makers are doing that. Many decision makers are eager to engage with young people. They just often do not know how to get into contact. So really be the bridge builder for your own cause and learn how to advocate and reach out to the decision makers. And then I actually can think you can have a lot of influence.
Thank you so much. Now, to the last question I want to ask you both. We have been talking about what you can do better. What have went wrong also, of course, because we talked about the peer stunt, basically the objectives not being well set from the start. So my question to you is, do you think we need a new, perhaps, Year of the Youth to start again and make it right? Or can we salvage with the time we have to at least go to the right direction? What do you think?
I think if we have too many years of youth, then it can just sort of cause an inflation of the topic. But I think the key, and in my view, what should be one of the main takeaways of the 2020-22 Year of Youth, is actually trying to mainstream this issue into regular business. and to just make sure that those issues are also reflected from the perspective of young people. I will give you an example. Sort of. We're very much active on SMEs, for instance, in economic policies, and we were trying to convince the Commission and the policymakers to have this angle, to look at SMEs first when they draft a regulation or when they draft a policy. And I think it should not be only one. You can by that design sort of make sure that there's also think about youth first, and then if you when the policy is designed, when it is discussed, that angle is actually already taken into account. And I think that's why I call it an opportunity. This could be a sort of something to help you, like a trampoline, that it brings you higher and to the perspective and vision of the policymakers, but then just make sure that it's not over when the 2022 is over. That actually you use it, and I think to follow up with what Svenja said, definitely. I mean, people are not sitting and waiting for you to come. You would make sure, and you have to battle to pass your message through. But I think this is also the time when. And maybe this was not something what Ursula von der Leyen had in her mind from the very beginning, that you will come to them and say, look, this is year of youth, so you have to take us seriously, and not only this year, but from now on. I mentioned yesterday we have this Next Generation EU, a groundbreaking decision in terms of how we deal with problems in Europe, and I mean. Again, this has to be something that is actually translated into something meaningful for young people. It should not be only a brand name that is sort of using young generation, because in the end you will be paying for the debt that was raised, but that actually it brings something meaningful for you. And that would be sort of my invitation for you. Don't just try to come back to people who are in the decision makers position. Take them accountable for what they decided, and actually make sure that in the end the youth agenda is actually fully on board when they discuss it. So sort of like an embedded angle that the decision makers or the policy makers are actually taking when they draft various policies. And this is a good time. There will be a lot of decisions taken these years that will have an incredible impact on our lives for decades. So I think it's an invitation, maybe invitation for your new term,
Invitation accepted.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so recycling, seizing the opportunity, and improve on that. Svenja Han, any last remarks?
First of all, I'm very thrilled because the boat passing us by is called like my hometown, the Hamburg. So feeling at home in Prague. No, Andre, I couldn't agree more with you. The Year of the Youth might have been a PR stunt in the beginning, but it turned into a great opportunity for awareness to include young people better in decision making. And now we need to use it as an opportunity to strengthen the structures, how young people are involved. Because politics works with structures and systematics, and we need to strengthen those structures to involve people, young people. And if we use the Year of the Youth to build this awareness, I think everyone has one from this.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Kovarik. Ms. Han, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your ideas, but also your advice on how we can improve on the Year of the Youth. A big round of applause for our MEPs. And with this, we will actually now go ahead to our second session. I would like to invite Marketa here. And also thank you to EPPS for, of course, arranging this as well. Oh, please.
Hello, So, good evening, everybody. I would also like to invite Mr. Hlaváček, who is the second MEP. Thanks to his donoring, we can be on this boat and have this fruitful discussion, I hope. And just at the beginning, let me say, when I was speaking at the opening of the Congress, I said that Prague is the heart of the Europe. But I hope that Prague also left or will still leave some special place or mark in your own hearts, because I'm so honored and glad to welcome you all here in Prague and on this boat also, because for me it's a little bit symbolic, because when Mladé Ano was founded 7 years ago, we were also on a boat, because it's symbolic. We say always, like, we are on one boat, we are all in this together, and we are really together, because here, like, 150 young liberal Europeans gathered, and we can discuss and enjoy the beauties of Prague, and it can offer many. But now we will have a talk about also really important event that is happening this year, and that is Czech presidency of the Council of the European Union. As you may know, we did it once. And it was real, let's say, unique moment, because our government fell during our presidency. So we left quite an impression on the European Union when you, like, your own government is not able to make it through the time when you are on a spotlight of Europe. So now we want to take it really seriously, and we want to prove that Czechs can also offer something good to the European Union. And when speaking about good things, we have to speak about young people. And with my two guests, Mr. Hlaváček and Mr. Kovařík, we will now talk about what Czech young people should care about and what they can do during our Czech presidency. And I would like to start with one question. Like, as you see, there are many people from different countries. Do you think there are more things that unite together young people with Czech young people, or there are more, like, divisions that we are really different from the rest of the Europeans? And I would like to start with Mr. Hlaváček.
So, good evening to everyone. I hope you enjoy your stay in Prague. I can't hear anything. Okay. And thank you for coming. And I think we are also lucky, because we were not sure still in the fall of last year if we could get here and get together. So let's enjoy it, but let's also take it with respect, because we don't know what is ahead of us. And the past 2 years we thought the worst that could come is an unknown disease that would make a lot of lockdowns, making a lot of economic, social, but also people's mind deteriorations. But then we found out that we are not living in as stable global world as we have been dreaming about, especially us, people in my age, who were still born in the times of communism, but grew up in a majority of their life already in a democratic world. And why I'm making this reference, because I think it is very much linked to the question that Markéta has posed. And it's not only about Czech presidency. I think it's also about, and Svenja was talking about it, how do we engage from our early years in the society? And we often hear a lot of pre-cooked recipes saying you must be active, you should engage, go for it. But if you succeed or not, it's not only your individual commitment, but it is also based on the system we are living in. And we sometimes tend to forget. People like me, we still remember systems where you could do your utmost, but without just singing with the crowd, you would not get anything, and you would not achieve anything. I think if you would ask today people in Ukraine, they would also tell you that few months back they were living their ordinary lives, perhaps a little bit different from ours, but with their wishes, their desires, their plans, and they could have hardly imagined that suddenly they would live in an environment and context that is suddenly suppressing completely your personal ambitions, your personal desires, and your societal wishes. And I think that if we have planned for it or we didn't, I think it's also a reminder of the situation. And I'm pretty much convinced that the Czech presidency, even if perhaps not planned some time back, will use it to remind to all of us and to come back to some traditional values. But if we start to talk about traditional values, you perhaps start questioning me, but then is politics about competition or not? Because as farther as we go to the key values of societies, and you would say that democratic parties would just simply merge into the same priorities and ambitions. And then you can be also a little bit misguided, misleaded, in a way that at the same time that we share the same principles and should continue defending them, this is the basics. But then we are all representing different political families, different political ideas, also different philosophical approach to our lives and functioning of society, but still based on some values that are not touchable. And if anyone is touching them, then of course we all have obligation to fight for a change or to protect it. But in a moment that we also offer our political desires and transfer them into our political ideas and programs, then we start the competition, the political competition, and that starts back from you. And let's not just celebrate. I think we should also sometimes be a little bit critical to ourselves. How do we differentiating ourselves from the others, especially in those times where it's so important that we all share and represent and also express common values. And I think majority of you would agree with me that we are struggling very often how to identify ourselves and how to identify ourselves for our electorate, for our voters. And this is where exactly need you as an engine of thinking, because my so far life experience has shown me that the best ideas were those that others have invented and created for me. And if I don't have good ideas, I have just failed in making others develop those ideas for me. And I think this should be a principle that especially us as European liberals, we should be sometimes much more challenging in this desire. Why? Because otherwise we will get diluted in the crowd. And it's not just societal crowd, it is also a political crowd. And I think Czech presidency could be a good time for it, because we need your voices to be heard on issues that for many, and for many of you who are coming from different European countries, have been taken for granted. And now they are challenged. And very likely the combination of socio-economic situation that is coming to us will also show us some limits of the society. And we know from the history that when we are stretching limits of societies, this is very dangerous time for a society, and that means in turn a very dangerous time for politics. So I don't want to get longer on this. I hope you are getting what I mean, but we need you engaged, we need you coming, and I think Svenja was right. Svenja was very much straight on the point that we need you to be active, but at the same time, we cannot fail in getting the best out of you.
Thank you. And now the same question to Mr. Kovařík. Well, if you look at us, all us together, do you think there are more things that we have in common? So it would also mean that we are stronger, a strong force. Or there are like real differences between young people from Czech Republic, Sweden, or Ukraine?
Well, it's very hard to add anything after Martin's intervention, right? But let me give it a try. No, I think to be honest, following to what Martin started with, I think, for instance, that our generation that was born in communism and lived in a communism was very much different from you know, our colleagues and in other countries actually, and we could have sort of seen it, I think, quite clearly. But in my view, the young people, the young generations, whatever we call them, you know, Y, Z, millennials, anything, I think it's a big difference. It's a big difference. There's a lot of that that you have in common all across Europe. You basically have very similar perspectives and very similar life expectations and you know, views and values that you share. But I still think that you can, and that's in my view the beauty of an international or European party. You can still bring different perspectives or different emphasis, different accents on various political issues, and that's because you're coming from various cultural, historical, society, economic backgrounds, and I think this is what actually makes the value of the European political party, that this is a great platform for sharing all these differences that you sort of take with you into these debates, and I think that there are differences, but the key is actually the shared values that you all fight for, and I think it's also important. We you know, mentioned a couple of times how happy we are and how glad we are to welcome you here in the Czech Republic. But I think it's not only, you know, that you can sail this boat on Vltava River and see these beautiful buildings, but it's also about, you know, for you to emerge into what is a Czech reality. You know, how it actually, how it looks like here. You know, how people live here, and you know, to give you a little bit more sort of life experience with, for example, is important for the Czech colleagues. And I think in this regard, if there is something, we should sort of make a link between this general issue and the Czech presidency. I think this is something that we definitely have maybe a little bit more anchored in our hearts and in our, in general, in our ways we approach politics and public debates. I think this is exactly that legacy of a country that lived for a long time under the oppressive regime, and that we don't want this to repeat. We don't want this to happen to anyone else, and we are actually very much in favor of helping and spreading this message around. And we could have seen it in the beginning of the war in Ukraine. When it started, I was at an international conference in Paris on the 24th of February, and there were very different types of reactions from various types of various nationalities and various peoples actually. And for us, it was exactly what we lived back in 1968, when the Russian and Soviet army entered Prague. And you made the reference, Markéta, yesterday in your opening speech. And I think this is something, you know, our unique experience that we immediately see as, you know, what can happen. And this is just an example to show that there are different perceptions of situation, of reality, of threats, of what is happening around us. But I think the key is actually to sit down, to share their perceptions, and actually to find a common way out. And that in my view should be not only the goal for LIMEC and for the presidencies and institutions, but I think in the end that's actually why we have the European Union, why we have the Europe. And that in my view is the key policy goal, if you allow to just, you know, to pursue that on one hand very general, but I think substantial and at some point existential policy goal.
Thank you, Andre. Martin, you wanted to add something?
Yes, if I may, I have one ask to you, if I may allow. Please care about people who don't agree with you and who don't share your values. Please care about them more than about those they share your view or that they share your values. I think this is increasingly important in these days. Why? We are discussing here the differences. I think it is better to give an example than a theory. We see here in this society, in the country you are just staying, a big difference between that part of society that, for example, like me, I was one of the first year students of Erasmus. It was in 2002. We were not yet in the European Union, so we were allowed as a country to join the first programs, even if we were not in, okay? From my university of several thousands people, we were, I think by then year, about 20. So very marginal, little proportion of the population. And if I compare people that are of my age or younger, and if I compare the mindset and thinking of people who are of my age and older, I can see a huge gap in perception, in understanding, in value appreciation, in suspicion to different types of communication, including fake news. And I think this is what will be dragging us into a societal political debate in the years forward. And even today, when you see a lot of misinformation about the war in Ukraine, if you see a lot of misinformation about societal cohesion, impact of inflation now, energy crisis and the prices that families have to pay for, you see completely different mindset about the cause, about the consequences, but also about the political opinion about it. And that's why I believe it is so important that we care for people who do not agree with us, especially at the times that are ahead of us.
Well, you spoke about communication, and that is where my next question is going, because you know it, you work at the European Parliament, and when speaking about the European Union, we all here are somehow interested in it. We are maybe even passionate about the European integration, but there are peers at the same age as we are. They don't really care or don't understand what is European Union, how it is functioning. They basically, when they hear about the European Union, then they only hear about how the bananas should be shaped, or that European Parliament agreed on some resolution on some quotas that are not needed right now, or they think so. Do you have some special trick or recipe how to communicate what you are doing, because it's really important job and it can also offer a great opportunities for young people, as Martin also spoke about the Erasmus. And in my opinion, when you taste the Europe, you become somehow passionate about it, because there are really great opportunities waiting, especially for the young people, and especially of my generation. That was the first generation that was born into the free state after the fall of Soviet Union and fall of Berlin Wall. So do you have some recipe how to speak with the people that don't really know what is the European Union, what to present them, Andrei?
I believe, and that's my experience, that maybe first of all we should not be too much pushing the European Union towards people, especially starting with the European Union as an organization with institutions and procedures and functioning representatives, etc., etc. That becomes immediately boring and no one listens to you. It's very difficult. I remember that from my studies when we had the European affairs by that time at university. We basically spent a year studying on how many members of European Parliament there are, what are the voting procedures in the Council. Those things are extremely important, but they are more important for those who are actually on a day-to-day basis dealing with European affairs. But they are very bureaucratic, so they won't create emotion. And I think what we need in terms of Europe, it's actually to create emotions of people to attach to Europe. They don't have to love it, but they at least they should be able to perceive it, to feel it, and that is, I think, the key and very difficult task. But I think also we spoke about Erasmus, and I think there are many other examples. Those are actually things that can create this emotion because they provide stories. All those people who had the opportunity to study abroad, to participate at a young political party congress abroad, to have and meet their friends and relatives abroad, to travel, then they actually create those stories, and they have something concrete to attach the feelings about Europe. And I think it is very important because this day-to-day experience is something that can actually enhance and create and initiate these positive emotions for Europe. And then the European Union at some point can come on top of that. If you become so passionate that you would like to work in the institutions or spend some time of your career linked to it, obviously then I think the word European Union can actually step in. But I think the key should be Europe. I always give this example. When you travel and you travel outside Europe, you go to Americas, you go to Asia, and people ask you, where are you from? Your first answer would not be, I'm from Prague, but you try to sort of focus, and you say, I'm from Europe, just to give the example. And that's, I think, what also people sort of have these impressions and have these ideas and rough ideas. Okay, Europe, when we know where it is and what it is, and this is something which in my view can actually bring more people into thinking of what Europe means, and also maybe even working and trying to deepen this idea of European cooperation. And I think, again, these days we live through one big test of European idea, and that's the war in Ukraine. And I think if it goes well, we should be able to, in practice, test our European spirit, our European solidarity, and the European idea, by taking on board with us the Ukrainians that who deserve that, and who actually showed a lot of courage and a lot of commitment actually to show that they are part of Europe. And that would be also, I think, our task.
Thank you, Andrei. Martin?
Communication. It's a tricky thing. The recipe is very simple, but we all fail in it. European institutions fail in it, political groups fail in it, and majority of politicians as well fail in it. While we know that if we like it or not, the key driver of communication in today's politics is what? Is activism combined with social media. This is the dynamics. So if we are aware of it, we should also take it seriously. Okay? What is activism? And I'm not saying political activism, I'm saying activism. Okay? Activist communication is based on emotion and symbol. Okay? I think that political activation and communication related to political activism should be based as well on symbol, on emotion, but also on credibility. This is what should differentiate pure activists from political activists. Why are not we more successful in doing so? I think because we have not yet adopted this kind of method. We still believe that this type of communication relates either to activists or populists. And this is something we don't want to be messed up with. But if you are confronted with populists and activists using certain type of tools or weapons, would you confront them naked and without any tool? I think the better option is that you adopt some part of their arsenal, but use it more credibly, meaning not to erode it below our level of values. But honestly, let's be self-critical, we have not found the key to do this properly. Not at our level, but also not at EU, meaning institutional level. European Commission, Parliament, Council, this is the poorest communication. If they would be about selling products on the market, they would have the lowest market share. Trust me, they would have the lowest market share, despite the amount of money that is spent. So I think this is one element that maybe we should reflect more. I think here again, our voices, your voices, our combined voices are simply needed because we often spend a lot of money, energy, efforts and enthusiasm on something that is either obsolete, has been proven that is not working, or something that is innovative in a wrong way. And I think here, if we would make this is one of the key factor of success, because we have to assume the fact that today politics is driven by these parameters. Then of course it turns, if we also don't have some systemic errors in, or systemic failures in getting this. And I think one of the biggest disillusion and misappeal of people, especially young people, in politics in general, because we still have the same problem that we have had for ages, yeah? We don't have young people in farming, we don't have young people in politics, and we are simply missing appeal of European society in European project. One of the attributes from my perspective is also the wrong setup of EU institutions, because as we have developed up until now, let's say since the final phases of Barroso's Commission into Juncker's and then now multiplied by von der Leyen, Commission thought many years back, and we all knew, we have a problem with the deficit of people believing, or we had even decline of people trusting, believing in the European project. Then one of the idea by them was, okay, this is maybe because Brussels, and people often don't distinguish Commission, Parliament, and Council, okay? They believe it's just Brussels, huh? So whatever is messing up there, it's just Brussels. And Brussels is either good or guilty, And the idea was, if we make commission, if we turn commission, but don't forget, commission is not elected institution. Okay, so if we turn an institution who is in fact initiator of legislation, but at the same time it is a professional institution rather than political, because it's not being elected, that many people believe that the deficit is created by the fact that Brussels is not pursuing political agenda, plan, strategy. So that was changed. Barroso started development idea, then Juncker came, then von der Leyen, and suddenly Commission grew up into a political institution while not being elected. What was the effect? The effect was in fact that we are today in consistent fight between Commission and Council. Why? Because majority of the politicians in the member states, they have naturally adopted their position against non-elected political body. Okay, whatever comes from Brussels, don't worry, dear voters, we will protect you from that. So, Commission and Council in constant fight. Then Lisbon Treaty came in, European Parliament emancipated a bit, also searching for its space in the universe, saying, how do we do that? That we increase our competence, our importance, and whatsoever. Of course, the biggest ally that is just across the street is Commission. Not because of this proximity, it's because of the fact that for Commission, we are legitimizing their democratic deficit that is driven from the fact that they are not elected. So they need us, so it's a nice partnership, it's a nice marriage. And Parliament, as trying to emancipate its role like a body, that was suppressed because of the treaty setup before, and then coming into more emancipation along the time, its role in Brussels politics. But have we sorted out with this? Have we sorted out with this idea the fact that people are more skeptical or less skeptical, or more skeptical to the European project? The data is showing us that not very much. Why? Because still people do not distinguish the institutions. They still see there is some mess in Brussels. Okay. Now Commission is shouting, here is the big project. One day we are saving Greece, the other day we are saving the economic growth, another day we are saving planet, okay? And there is the Parliament, and then is a constant fight. Still the ministers and prime ministers getting into Brussels saying, don't worry, dear voters, we are going to protect you from this. So I think the way we communicate and also the setup we have is simply destined for a failure in people's perception and appeal for the European project. And I think today we have very good opportunity eventually to push it a little bit in a different direction, because we will have conference on the future of Europe. I think these should be topics that we should discuss there. First, how do we sort out the interinstitutional setup, point one, so that it is not a fight among institutions, but this is appealing project for the people, and at the same time the continuous long-lasting failure in the way that we communicate to the citizens from Brussels. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
Thank you, Martin. And to conclude, what would be your last message, like last sentence to all young people that are here already enjoying the view and thinking about what to do next about the Europe, about their issues?
That is very hard, because I remember when I was young, I was not very much willing to listen to, these old people telling us what to do.
You are not old.
And I think, to be honest, that your generation is actually much wiser than we were at some point. Definitely much more experienced. But I think to sum up what we were saying is just be aware that the future is yours, and that you actually have all the rights to come back and make it the way you wish it. And that means whatever it takes, really, to be active, to really think it through, to sell it, and convince people that this is the right way to go. And well, in my view, this is exactly what LIMEC is about and should be about, among others. And at least on my behalf, I can always say that we'll be happy to liaise with you and listen to you. If there is something that you believe you can take from us, we'll be happy to share. But I think for what we do, it's very important to hear your views and your takes, because I think, as we discussed in the first panel, this is something that is terribly missing, and we should try really, try hard to fill this gap. So think about the future; it's yours. Don't let other people to take it. If you have some doubts, if it makes sense or not, think of Brexit all the time. This is really bad example how it has turned out, and also be sure that we are there also to help you, to listen to you, and together with you to take these issues and ideas into real decisions and the policy making. And I think this should be also a sort of a message of readiness and call for more cooperation.
I would like to ask you to check after this session how many people we had connected online. I think this is a good test of appeal about European liberal politics. And I have only one ask to you. Please draw your own conclusion from this figure, because you are best positioned to evaluate what is enough and what is not enough. And based on that, please turn your hunger in caring about other people in a way that you unleash the same spirit you have in you among as most people around you that you can. Because I think this is the only way that we can progress. And I wish you all that you have a lot of success in this, and that you have also a lot of success in your personal life. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and also thank Ondřej for being with us. Thanks also to Svenja and to Dan for moderating the first panel, and also thanks to Institute for Politics and Society to making things happen, making this stream happen. We will definitely check how many people view it, and just let me conclude with one thing. As I told you before, this boat is really symbolic, and as you saw, we were going once as with the flow and then against the current, and it was thanks to that we have engine. And as I said before, we are on the boat together, and we are the engine. So it really depends on us which direction we will take. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is the last of our session. Thank you once again, Mr. Kovarik. Thank you once again, Mr. Klavčík. It was very nice to have you here. It was very nice that you organized this and how, well, we are truly grateful. Now, we do have less than 1.5 hours that we're going to use for networking, visit the bar, and, of course, to get to know each other better. Enjoy!